it's great to see you all logging in. Hope you all had a really good weekend. And thank you for joining us for the first session of this week with Phil Oxenburgh, who's one of our board members at Wanneroo Business Association, but he's also the sales manager on the upholstery side for Warwick Fabrics. So I said he might have to reference the items behind him, which all look very good. I've been eyeing up some things for my house. Looks great there, Phil. There's a couple of features for everyone that's logging in this morning of the software I wanted to let you know about. So there is the chat, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen, which Jacek has already commented into everybody. The other thing is the Q&A button. So if you've got a question for Phil that comes up throughout the presentation, hit the Q&A button and type in your question, and then at the end we'll facilitate the questions and you'll be able to get the information that you need from Phil whilst we've got him. So thank you for your time this morning, Phil. I'll hand over to you and we'll see you at the end.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. See you soon. Hi, everybody. Thanks for logging into this session. I hope you get some really good value out of it. So, so the topic, as you know, is building customer relationships in a downturn. And the focus is really about building customer relationships in generally and just taking a skew on that to make it more, okay, these are tough times. How do we continue building relationships? So the structure is just going to do a quick background on me. Then, as you saw in the ad which Lauren put out, which was we're going to identify the challenges of maintaining customer relationships in a downturn, acquire some strategies to keep your sanity and motivation. And then I've got, I think it's 6 tools that I've got for building customer relationships when everything seems to be not going so great. And I was trying to think of a different word for shit, but I think that's pretty much how things are at the moment. And then getting prepared for when things start turning back to normal. So that fourth part, the creating a toolkit, there is quite a lot in there. And what I recommend, it's taken from 4 or 5 different half-day workshops. So there's a lot of stuff in there. What I recommend is not try and do everything, but pick out 1 or 2 things which you think will add value to your business and your sales processes. And then work on those. So go back and watch the video that's recorded and get more details on those. And you can send questions through to Lauren as well. So, so quick background on me. I did spend 15 years in the fast moving consumer goods industry with some pretty big brands such as Kellogg's, the Equal company, which is global company, and also Australian made toilet paper manufacturer who is probably doing pretty well at the moment. My customers were, at that time, were Woolworths, Coles and Aldi, and I was working with the head offices for about 10 out of those 15 years. And in 2013, I established Kestrel Strategy to help businesses grow by aligning with the customer strategy. So everything I learned in fast-moving consumer goods in selling to complex customers, did that to all kinds of different other organizations. And in 2018, I decided, you know, actually, I just like working for organizations and started working for Warwick Fabrics. So now I'm with Warwick Fabrics and I look after the upholstery side of the business. It's an Australian company, and we do fabrics for upholstery, drapery. Then you can see all those lovely cushions. We've got this beautiful brand called Weave, which is cushions, throws, and you can see the little rug down there. I was going to show a little bit around our showroom, but I don't know how to reverse the camera while on screen show. So, so just here is a premium brand. Over here is a whole lot of our cushions. So, so yeah, if you ever feel like renovating, pop into our showroom. At the moment, we're closed to the public, just open for appointment for trade customers. But right now, I'll get into it. So, a typical sales presentation. I've always used this picture since 2013 when I started doing sales training. I love this picture because basically the guy on the left with the loud speaker is a lot of the salespeople who I've worked with over the years, just giving their spiel to the customer. There's this barrier. There's a perceptual barrier, or it can be a language barrier. Language as in the type of jargon that we use, and the customer's not hearing what we're saying. or sometimes it's the vice versa. There's the customer is trying to tell, the customer's the one with the loud hailer, trying to tell the salesperson, this is what I really want from you guys. And the sales guy's just waiting for an opportunity to pitch his business again in a way that's not relevant to his customer. So I love this one just for saying, hey guys, just remember, it's all about listening to each other, removing barriers, and working collaboratively together. So the challenges of selling in a crisis or a downturn, particularly when your customer's business is not doing so well, and some of our customers' businesses are actually closed. So of course, there's the things like the cash flow. They've got landlords on their backs, the banks, creditors. There are obviously some government needs to plans in place to help relieve that, but it's still very stressful. There's all the staffing issues. You know, me as a member of staff of a fairly large organisation, feel pretty stressed out at times, and my boss knows all about it. Then there's security. Yeah, your customer could be going through a lot of security issues, whether it's their personal security or it's security for their family, and a little bit of a pessimistic outlook. So how do you sell when your customers may not have a need for your product at the moment, and how do you keep building those relationships even when the sales aren't there? So one of the challenges that we have is fear. So something which I deal with on a pretty regular basis. It's the fear of, what if the customer says no? What's the customer going through? Sometimes it's the fear of, my own capability. Do I really know what I'm doing? This guy knows more about the business than I do, so who am I to tell him what to do? So there's fear from, how's the customer going to react? There's our own self-confidence as a fear as well. And then there's the challenges of working in isolation. We're not doing what these guys are doing, high fives and hanging out together, really supporting each other. So that might be high fives with your colleagues, like, hey, things are going really well, or we overcame that challenge. Or it might be high fives with the customers where you both achieved something together, and your business is moving forward. And so those kinds of things aren't happening while working from home. And so, yes, I'm in the showroom at the moment, but I am spending most of the time at home. We're sort of on a rotating roster here in the showroom to answer customer calls. So one of the things which I'm using as a foundation for this whole presentation is mindset. And Dr. Carol Estweck wrote this amazing book called Mindset: How You Can Fulfill Your Potential in Business, Parenting, School, and Relationships. It's a pretty much coverall. It's an amazing book, and the basis of it is these two mindsets, which I'll just run through now. But I highly recommend purchasing it. Don't worry, I don't get any commissions, just purchase it from wherever. not on a sales pitch for that one. So there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, is what Carol talks about. And it's important to think about these before we get started, that you don't have a fixed mindset, or you don't have a growth mindset, but you may be in a fixed mindset in a particular situation in your life or at work, and you might be in a growth mindset in another situation. So for example, an accountant might be completely in his element when working through the numbers, working through strategies, working through cash flows, coming up with ideas to help their customer grow. But then when it comes to talking to the customer about it, it can be quite challenging. So that's where you've got a growth mindset. Working with the numbers might be, don't worry, I'm not categorizing accountants here. Fixed mindset is how you present those numbers to the customer. So basically, when somebody's in a fixed mindset, which means you can change to a growth mindset if you want to, we assume that there's nothing more to learn, that intelligence is static. And this can lead to a desire to look smart, to go, like fake it till you make it, and a tendency to avoid challenges. So when things get tough, you sort of like okay, I'll go in this direction and avoid that challenge. When there's big obstacles, we give up easily. We may see effort as fruitless or worse, as pointless. There's a tendency to ignore feedback, whether it's useful, negative or positive. If somebody says, hey, you could have done that a little bit better, how about you try this or that? We'll get all defensive and leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. And often we then feel threatened by the success of others, and leads to jealousy and all kinds of terrible things. I'm summarizing a whole chapter here, so apologies for that. So as a result, we plateau and we achieve less than what we actually could. And it actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It affirms our deterministic view of the world, and we all start getting back to point one, which is intelligence is static. Somebody who's in a growth mindset assumes that learning is lifelong, and it leads to a desire to learn and therefore a tendency to embrace challenges. So when things get tough, when somebody says no, it's like, okay, why did they say no? And a tendency to persist in the face of setbacks. So there's these challenges building up against us. What can we do to persist and overcome these obstacles? We may see effort as a pathway to mastery. So by putting in the effort, I then learn more about what's the challenges in this area of the business, or the challenges in this industry, and therefore I become more of an expert in what I'm working on. We learn from criticism, even embrace. So that should say embrace, not braces. Even embraces and asks for criticism. So by getting feedback from people, whether it's positive or negative, we grow. We're like, okay, I understand that. So, and the final one is that we learn and are inspired by the success of others. So instead of being threatened by the success of others, we see others' success and want to be part of that. And as a result, we achieve ever higher levels of success. And this gives you a greater sense of free will, gives you a greater sense of self-determination. And again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You go back to point one, you assume that learning is lifelong. And just as an example of that, I told you at the beginning that I spent 15 years in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. I knew grocery inside out, and then moved into consulting in almost every other industry apart from fast-moving consumer goods, strangely enough. I thought that I would be consulting to food producers, but didn't do much of that. Worked with oil and gas companies, I even worked with the university. And so as I was going through that, not only was I consulting people in how to work with complex customers and on leadership and sales, but also I was learning probably more than they were. I look back and just go, sometimes the growth curve was just monumental. I had to become an expert in, say, an oil and gas sector really, really quickly to help those people be able to sell to their customers. So that's where there's a growth mindset coming in. But got to admit, did have fixed mindset in some areas of my life as well. So now we're going to move on to the 6 strategies, which we're going to work through. Sorry, no. Wind back. This is the area, this section is how to keep your sanity and motivation during this time. So these are actually little words from a course called Empowered for Purpose in 7 Steps, designed by a good friend of mine, George Halou, lives here in Perth. Life Coach Perth is his name. And he uses these empowerment principles. So there's 52 empowerment principles. And when you're going through a pretty tough time, you read through them. There's a whole course on it, of course. And look for the empowerment principles which will help you through the current challenges. So I've picked out 5 here, which I think are appropriate to this. They're appropriate to me, and I think they're appropriate to the audience who's listening today. So the first one is adaptation. So adaptation feeds back into what Carol S. Dweck was saying about the growth mindset, that there's more to learn. And also our environment is constantly changing. the environment in which we live and work has changed, so can I. And really at the moment, think about it, 4 weeks ago, Wanneroo Business Association wasn't doing webinars. Now we're doing, I think, 4 or 5 a week. It's just crazy. Everyone is adapting without a choice. And I'm able to make the choices to how I adapt. And when we're not empowered, when we hold ourselves back, we end up being pushed and adapting in a way that the environment is forcing us to, or that our preconceived ideas are leading us to. Whereas we actually have the power to adapt in the way that I need to move forward. So whether that's adapting for yourself or adapting for your business, we can adapt and we can create new ways of doing business when the environment is changing very quickly. And as we know, the world has been changing at an ever more rapid pace over the last 20 years as we move more and more into digital. And that's forced us to change in many, many ways. And so this COVID-19 situation is just a massive change in 4 weeks rather than over 20 years. The second one is creativity. So creativity takes courage. And I hear people saying, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. Well, actually, if you weren't creative, then you wouldn't actually be able to get on with life in any way at all. But we've become conditioned to accepting an existing reality. This is the life that I live in. And this is the processes that I go through day to day. And therefore, it's really important in a business to build up systems and processes, for example. And then we stop being creative rather than challenging how those systems and processes work, as an example. So Edward de Bono said that creativity is a great motivator because it keeps people interested in what they are doing. Creativity gives hope that there can be a worthwhile idea. And creativity gives the sort of achievement to everybody. Creativity makes life more fun and interesting. So Edward de Bono, amazing organizational psychologist, also a person worth reading. So we adapt by being creative, and creation involves us tapping into our intuition. It involves us tapping into our knowledge. It's not just crazy innovation. It's using the knowledge that you've got, intuition into your organization, your customer's organization, your customer's business, and using that to be creative. So it's not being creative in a vacuum and just going out producing a work of art at the drop of a hat. So the third one is purpose. So I mentioned George Helou before. He's the one who created these 7 steps to empowered for purpose in 7 steps. And so one of his favorite sayings, well, one of my favorite sayings that he says is to live a moment without purpose is to drift rudderless into unwanted circumstances. And this is where adaptation comes in. So if you're not adapting the way you want to be, you'll be adapting the way that the world forces you to be. And so it's really important to be clear about your purpose and give meaning to what you do. And be detailed in your purpose. So, I work for a fabric company. So we're not going to save the world, but we will make it look really nice. We help people make their homes, their offices, their cafes and lunch bars. We help people make places look nice. And I think that's a pretty good purpose. So the fourth one is truth. So truth is about truth with yourself and truth with others, and it's being authentic. And it's directing your energy into the greater goals rather than, the me goals. When you've got purpose, you're directing your energy and you're directing your truth into that greater purpose to make the world a prettier place or to make the world a more efficient place. Depending on what you're doing. I think there's somebody online today from Edith Cowan University, so to make the world a more knowledgeable place where you can make decisions from a more knowledgeable perspective. And the final one, which I think is the most important thing in selling everywhere, is intuition. So another great quote, Albert Einstein, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is its faithful servant. But we've created a society that honors the servant and forgotten the gift." So guys, if you need to do anything today, take anything out of today, it's intuition, is tapping into intuition, letting your intuition guide your rational mind rather than the other way around. So what is intuition? It's your instinctive knowledge. It's knowledge that you have without evidence. And quite often, you get a gut feel about something. You ever had that little knot in your stomach, like, I really believe this is the way we're going? There are actually, I've forgotten the numbers now. I usually remember it off the top of my head, but there's a huge number of neurons in your gut, around your stomach and around your intestines, which are communicating directly with your brain. And so there is a lot of evidence to show that that gut instinct is actually very, very powerful, and it's intricately connected to your mind. So use your intuition. And the last point I've put there is rapport. Intuition is what drives rapport, which is going to be the first tool that we talk about in a moment. So I'll get more into rapport because there's a lot of myths about rapport. So this is the toolkit, the 6 toolkits for building customer relationships when everything seems to be going wrong. Firstly, we're going to cover the secret of rapport. There's a lot of myths around rapport. I'm going to give you the secret, the art of listening. And so those are sort of coveralls. And then some actual really strong tools which you can work with is the iceberg theory, the client needs map, creating your unique selling proposition. Everyone talks about these. You've got to make it really powerful and quite different today. And finally, I'm going to finish with tips for your meetings, your phone calls, your video conferences. So tool 1 is the secret of rapport. So the more you talk, so when you're meeting with a customer or when you're talking with a customer on the phone or on video, unless you're doing a webinar where I just have to do all the talking because I can't hear you guys talking, the more you talk, the less you are trusted. So that means thinking back to that original picture with the guy with the loud hailer, brick wall, customer on the other side, can't hear what's going on. When we just blab on and on and on about how great our product is, how unique we are, the less we're trusted. It's like, you're not hearing me. On the other side, the more the customer talks, the more they trust you. So your customer actually needs an opportunity to talk about where they're at, what's going on in their life, what's going on in their business. And you need to listen to that and adapt your conversation to where your customer is at. Just going out and talking product benefits doesn't mean anything if those benefits aren't what the customer needs. So yeah, you've got the devil on one shoulder, angel in the other. So remember this one. This is a good one to remember. The more you talk, the less you're trusted. The more your customer talks, the more they trust you. Now we're moving on to the art of listening. So when I'm doing workshops, I'll do a whole workshop on this photograph, on what is this lady here doing, what's happening with her body language, which indicates that she's listening. There's a lot of things going on there, but we won't go through that. It's a very well-designed image. But you can do that later when you're watching the video. Think about all the things that she's showing in her body language to show that she's listening. So the art of listening is a bit like the physical ear. Now, I get a little bit scared presenting this one because one time I was presenting, and I think it was at a WBA event, actually. I was talking about this whole physical ear thing. And at the end, an audiologist said, that's not how the ear works. And it was just like, yeah, so we're figuratively speaking here. So I get a little bit scared. You know, if there's an audiologist listening, it's not just like how the physical ear works. It's how we imagine it to be, how us people who are uneducated about ears understand it. But so there are 3 levels of listening. So the first part is the external ear. So it's informative listening. So what we're doing is we're processing information. It's, you know, this outside bit which you can see. And what we're doing is mentally noting the points that the speaker is making, but thinking about our own ideas and waiting to respond. So the customer says, blah, 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 and then I come out with my sales pitch. That is not very good listening, not recommended. And it's a bit like that image that I showed at the beginning with the brick wall in between, one person talking to the other, the brick wall in between. It doesn't work. Great for, you know, crazy social conversation when you're just chilling out, but not great for building business. The second part is, you know, like the middle ear, halfway to your brain, is appreciative listening. And so this involves paying attention and making non-verbal cues appropriate to what is being said. So video calls are really good for this when you can't see your customers. But when you're on the phone, affirming words are really good ways of showing appreciative listening. So, because it's listening both mentally and physically. So physically is the first one, mentally is what we're doing here. And so if we go back to that image back here, that lady is physically listening. So you can see from her body language that she is paying attention. And what you're doing is actually listening, taking what they're saying and responding in relation to what the customer is saying. And the final part is the inner ear. So this is, you know, really close to your brain, okay? It's intuitive listening, and it calls for wisdom. It calls looking deeper into what your customers, what their thoughts and feelings are, what their pains and gains are behind all the words that are being said. So it calls for wisdom, and it's crucial to gaining a complete understanding of the customer's business and their situations. It's listening mentally, physically, and emotionally. So you're looking for the emotions which are driving the words that they're saying. And it's listening beyond what's being said. It's looking for a deeper meaning. And this model was, you can see down here, was developed by Bridget Hyacinth back in 2015. So she's a good person to follow on LinkedIn, actually. Quite interesting stuff she does on HR. So tool number 3 is the customer needs assessment. So this is the iceberg that I was talking about, because there are two things. There's what you can see and what the deeper needs of the customer are. So the iceberg is a really good example. So only 10% of the iceberg is above the surface of the water. That's what you see, but there's a huge amount underneath. And so what we do is we write down all the things that we see. So this is particularly good after an introduction conversation, or if you're talking about customers who you know already, know really well, before making that phone call, is what can you see? What do you know what's going on for them? So their past business, their current business during this COVID-19 period, and then what you can't see. And then while you're having the conversation is keep on writing things down in this area. Now, you don't need a picture of an iceberg to do this. Just get a piece of paper and about 1/3 of the way down the page, draw a line and go, what can I see at the top of the page? What can't I see below the page? And then from this, so the second part of this tool is actually a few slides away, but it's the pains and gains that come out of a deeper understanding. What's their pains that you can alleviate? What are their gains which you can contribute to? And that's how you develop your unique value proposition. So this is just an example of one that I did a few years ago with a building company, so a large construction company who was selling to apartment developers. And so above the line is a whole lot of stuff which they see when they go into meetings, and below the line is what we saw when we had a workshop and really dug deeply down into what's going on in their customers' business. And, you know, their customers were quite a aggressive kind of organization, you know, these big apartment developers. So you can see there on the left-hand side, there's this culture of aggression. There's a lot of internal politics. They have a fear of waste, highly complex projects. There's a lot of one-upmanship, many levels of decision-making. So the person you're speaking to may not be the person who's making a decision. Often there's a whole group of people who are making the decision. And so understanding that, and you know, good example of this is when, you know, I was working with Kellogg's selling to Woolworths, is the person who you're selling to isn't the final decision maker. He puts together a proposal to all his colleagues saying, in this range review, I'm going to take these products out, put these products in, change the shelf layout. That's what I'm going to do. And his colleagues and his manager and often the director of supermarkets will question him about it. And then he has to come back with a different answer to what you might have presented. So basically the role of the meeting with these guys is about equipping them with the tools. Saying complex organizations is equipping your customer, the person you have the face-to-face contact with the tools to be able to pass that knowledge through the organization so that the others in the organization can make a positive decision in your favor. The next one is the client's needs map. And so this is basically taking the iceberg and wrapping some questions around it. And you might do it all on one page like this if you're talking about a particularly complex customer, or in workshops with your organization, I do a page on each, or you might actually put posters up on a wall and people walk around and add to those posters. So it's a series of questions. It's what does the customer say and do? So when you're talking to them, what do they say and do? What's the attitude, appearance, behavior, and how they treat others? The second part is what does the customer see? So what's going on in their work culture? What's going on with their colleagues? What's going on with their friends and family? What's happening with their competitors? What's happening with their suppliers? What are the things that they see in the industry? That wasn't supposed to disappear. The third question is what does the customer hear? This is about the internal culture. So it's things about what their boss says to them, how others within the organization are treated and how they are treated. So this moves into what's their sense of security, what's their sense of success, what's their role in the organization. Well, I don't know what was going on with the screen share there. What does the customer think and feel? What really counts for them? Their worries, their aspirations, their preconceptions. So this can be really personal. It's what's going on in their personal life. It's it's their need for success. It's their fear of failure. It's their wanting to increase their income, so get more promotions. And it's wanting to be respected within their organisation for making good decisions. All those kinds of things is drivers of how they think and feel. So if we move to the bottom of the screen now, I don't know why these things keep disappearing. So you've got pain. So by asking all these questions, creating this map, you can then look at what are the pains that your customer is experiencing. And so the pains that they had 2 months ago are still there, but there's more pains on top. And some of those pains you can't take the virus away, you can't take away the rental problems, but there are other things going on in their business that you can help with. These things keep disappearing. And then the final one on the bottom is the gain. How do they measure success? What are their wants and needs? What are their obstacles? What can you do to assist them moving forward? So ultimately, taking from either the iceberg or from this client needs map, you create 2 columns. What are their pains? What are their gains? And then pick 1 or 2 from each side of the column that you can assist with. What pain can you take away? What gain can you add to their business? And as I said, you're obviously not going to be able to take away the virus, but you can help with other parts of their business. Tool 5 is the unique value proposition. And I'll give you an example of the pains and gains when I finish this unique value proposition. So there are 3 types. I'm going to focus on the first type. There's your unique value proposition, which is about how you sell yourself. Often this is used in job seeking. There's your organization's universal value proposition, sometimes called a universal selling proposition. And then there's the tailored proposition. So this is where you take the business that you're selling. What's your business model? What's your business's unique selling proposition? And by engaging with the customer, listening to the customer, understanding their needs and wants, pains and gains, and using your intuition and knowledge, you can create a unique value proposition which is unique to the customer or unique to today's circumstances. And I'll show you one of those in a minute. So weak value propositions are things like, I work in IT. That guy's never going to get himself a job. We are developing an app that helps blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know if you guys remember back in, I think it was probably 2013 through 2015, everybody was developing apps. Get rid of the word app. We help people connect with others through an application. So Uber helps somebody who wants to get from A to B, get from A to B in a cheaper, quicker, more reliable way, possibly. Things like prizes that your organisation has won, not always great. They're good down the line when having that more detailed conversation, but as a unique value proposition, doesn't really help. Saying we won the best customer service prize isn't really that important, because your customer wants to know what service are you going to deliver them, not what service did you deliver in the past. Nice to know, how are you going to help me with my problem right now? And I help integrate your organization software is another one. Actually, a couple of these are very IT orientated. I'm sorry. Sorry if I haven't given more general ones. So what we're really looking for in that last one is, what do you mean by integrate and what do you mean by software? So if you're using jargon, it's really hard for someone not in your field to engage in a conversation. So I'll give you an example of jargon that is used in my business. So in fabrics, we've got 5,000 different product lines. I like to call them product lines because it's the easiest way to talk about them. But in the mill industry, where fabric is made, and in the distribution industry, they talk about qualities. So the qualities is the type of fibers that are used, the durability of those fibers, the absorbency or non-absorbency of those fibers, whether a fabric is dyed as a single piece or whether it's thread dyed. So each thread is a different color before it's woven together. And these are all the qualities which make up a piece of fabric. But when you talk about, hey, this quality of fabric, blah, 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 people instantly think you're talking about, oh, it's good quality or bad quality. It's a medium quality. And I'm always asked, does price determine quality? It's like, well, no, but it does determine the qualities of the fabric determine the price. So that's jargon which we need to avoid when talking with customers. So how do I develop a unique value proposition? Firstly, who's my customer? Have a really clear picture of who your customer is. Define them. Write all about that. There's a whole process for writing about who your customer is. Even defining their personality is a fun thing to do. What problems do they have? How can I help them? And why am I different from my competitors? Best thing to do is just bullet point it, write lots and lots of bullet points, pick out the best ones, then form them into sentences. And you might find when they form into sentences that what you thought was the best bullet point doesn't really make sense. Choose something else. Try several variations. Say them out loud to yourself, because when you write something down, it sounds okay. When you say it to your mirror or to your computer, maybe record yourself, say it back. If it sounds silly, rewrite it. Practice on your colleagues, or I often practice on my wife, which really annoys her. So moving quickly on, because I think we're starting to close in on time. So my current unique value proposition. So my customers, so if you have to understand, my customers are upholsterers and furniture manufacturers. So their sales are decreasing. A lot of retailers, their doors are closed. Some retailers have the doors open, but there's just less traffic coming through. So the unique value proposition for us, which has never been used before, is we have 1.1 million meters of fabric in stock in Australia, with an average of 100,000 meters being unloaded every week. Why is that unique? Well, some of our competitors have no stock in Australia. They have to bring it from Europe. Europe's in shutdown. You can't get fabric out of Europe at the moment. I think our Our closest competitors have about half their stock in Australia, but most of it is overseas. Some in New Zealand, United States, and again, Europe. So if you order something, I've got an order from a retailer for a new sofa, needs 12 meters of a particular quality of fabric. If you order it from one of our competitors, chances are it's going to take 8 to 12 weeks to get here. If you order it from Warwick, it's going to be here in 4 weeks. 4 to 7 days, about 1 week. So this is the second part. So we have 1.1 million meters of fabric. So you can be confident that if you need it, we've got it. So when one of your customers does make an inquiry, and I know you've got less inquiries at the moment, we've always got something here in Australia to meet their needs. From fabric to hardware and the Weave brand of soft furnishings, you can count on us to deliver within 5 days. So that unique value proposition, I didn't mention the weaknesses of our competitors. I just mentioned the strength of what we deliver. Our customers know that product takes, weeks to get here. So we're just emphasizing a lot of stock, a lot of variety. Our normal unique selling proposition is about having design studios in Australia and about stocking in Australia. We never talk about how much stock we've actually got. So the final part is just some tips for meetings, and it can be really hard. As you said at the beginning, we can be quite fearful. We can be lacking in motivation. We can be wondering whether we're even, making any difference, making a phone call to a customer who's closed their doors. So the important thing is just to chill out and be yourself. Sometimes we have adrenaline making you feel a bit peaky. Use that adrenaline because adrenaline really heightens your senses. So you'll be able to hear more. You'll be able to use your intuition more. So use your adrenaline. You've got those little butterflies in your stomach. Use it, just like actors do. Look like you're listening. So we saw that picture of the lady who's listening in the secrets of listening. If you look like you're listening, you actually will. And if you're on the phone, sound like you're listening. Repeat back what the customer is saying and clarify. The third point sounds a little bit fatalistic. What will be, what is what will be. But if their views are different from yours, accept it as a truth in their eyes, and you have to adapt. So if a customer is not seeing your unique value proposition as a unique value proposition, then accept that. That's where they're at. And really question, what are they actually looking for? And also have realistic expectations. In your phone calls, don't expect to make a sale. Making a sale is a bonus, particularly just in normal times, selling to complex customers where there's a lot of things which need to be taken into consideration. Rarely do people make a decision in a meeting. I was quite shocked a few years ago when I was doing consulting that somebody did actually say, when can you start? Only happened once, and I would have done 150 contracts in those 5 years. Quite bizarre. It's like, what? I'll just let me get my diary. Totally threw me. But a lot of us go into meetings expecting to make a sale. The idea is to equip your customer with the knowledge in order to make a decision if they're not the final decision maker, or if they're having to take a whole lot of other things into consideration. And in this COVID-19 period, they probably can't make a decision. Their business is closed. So what you're doing is emphasizing a unique value proposition rather than trying to make a sale. Another tip is to avoid jargon wherever possible. So industry-specific, technical, or company-specific language that has different meanings in different contexts should be avoided. But listen for their jargon and use it. So if your customer is using particular words, find out what those words mean to them and then use that language back, because that actually shows that you're listening and shows that you speak the same language as them. So it's also important to put a structure for meetings. So if you've made the phone call, said, hey, let's have a video catch up next Thursday, it's going to take half an hour. It's always important to put a time limit on your meetings. So this is the kind of structure that I put in. I'll always say, G'day, Dave. It's great that we've finally met again. I truly appreciate how busy you are, how tough things are at the moment. And as you know, we're here to discuss your winter collection. So when making this appointment, we agreed that it would only be 25 minutes. So to keep us on track, can I suggest a little structure? 99% of people will say yes. Great. If you can start by telling me a little bit about your business, where you're at the moment and what you're looking for in this winter collection, I'll then run through the collections which suit your business. That's how I structure some of my meetings. Oh, and of course, finish with the question, are you okay with that? It's very rare for somebody to say no. You've given them the power. They've actually agreed to have a structure to the meeting. You've confirmed that you're not going to blab on for hours. And then don't. And so when they're talking about their business, what they're looking for, ask lots of questions. A really good one, which I really enjoy and is really important now when people may not be doing business, is what challenges is the industry facing over the next 3 years? So you're taking people out of the current problems and putting it in the context of, you know, this virus isn't going to be around forever. What are your needs when all this is over? What do you think needs to change to keep the industry growing or keep your business growing to overcome these challenges? How are your competitors responding to these challenges? This is an example. What 3 things does your business need to do differently to keep ahead of your competitors or to survive this crisis? And how is your role changing or adapting in these circumstances? So there's, you can get a lot of depth from these kinds of open-ended questions. And that informs you in how you deliver your presentation in the second part of the meeting. So clarifying questions, why is that? Can you explain that a little bit more? I don't really understand. Being vulnerable is fine. Saying I don't understand what you're talking about is perfectly fine. What does that word mean for your organization? So you're getting to understand their jargon. And then clarifying, so you'd like me to get more information on X, Y, and Z so you can make a more informed decision. The most important one at the very end, so this is not a clarifying question, this is like, okay, we're finished, we're getting ready to close. What's the next steps from here? So that's putting the power in your customers' hands and gives you clarity on what you need to do next. So finishing off with tips for staying ahead right now. It's really important to touch base with all your customers by phone, email, video, or whatever they need. So I've got 160 customers and I can't remember what date we started working from home, but I spent the next 4 weeks ringing those 160 customers. It took a long time. I thought it would be a lot quicker, but it took 4 weeks. Now I'm working back through that and just put some processes in place. So as an organization, we'll put some focus areas, so then we can call different customer groups at different times with very specific information. Really important, share your difficulties, empathize and be authentic. Ask how they'll overcome these times, how their business is tracking, whether they're still open. Listen and write things down, write down where they're at. Discuss ways that you're helping other people at the moment and where your business will be at the end. So it's keeping positive. This is how I'm helping others. And that helps them be creative and go, oh, well, I just closed the doors and walked away. Maybe I should be out there doing something. So you're helping your customer keep their business moving forward. Use your unique value proposition. So towards the end of a conversation, always restate your unique value proposition, but in terms of what you've just presented. Remind them that you're here to help. You're just a phone call away. And always close with kind words. So keep safe. See you soon. See you on the other side. So this is the end of the presentation. I think Lauren can come back on board now.
Thanks, Phil. I'm here. I haven't gone away. I'm still here. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think if everyone can take away one thing today, it's that if they haven't already, they should be communicating with their customers, even if your doors are closed or even if you're not able to do business in the same way that you might have done with them. because they'll remember the fact that you reach out to them, and when everything does go back to normal, that will be what makes the difference. So if anyone's got any questions, feel free to hit the Q&A button, and we'll pop them through. There's nothing come through from anyone yet. Maybe they were all listening especially well that they didn't have any questions, but I just had one a little bit more on objections. It's obviously more of a sales question than relationship, but is there any tips to prepare for the objections that you might get? Like, obviously you could make a list of the ones that you would expect to get, of no time or no, but those type of things, but is there any way you can expand beforehand to prepare for objections?
Yeah, and I think at the moment being ready, and understanding that, say, your customer's business is, I think the main objections at the moment is, I've got no customers coming through the door, or I've closed my doors. And so that's more than an objection, I suppose. It's actually a barrier. And so this is where I see keeping the doors open as being really important, emphasizing how you can help them when a customer does come through the door. This is how I can help you. So an example with our organisation, our showroom is still available for video conferences. People can't come in, but people can either write in, phone in, and we send images of the pictures that they want. So even if not getting many customers or no customers, this is how we can help if a customer walks through your door. And what you're saying, writing down possible objections, you've probably got good experience of the objections that you do get. There'll be some extras now, and always turning their objection into a question. So why do you? So okay, your doors are closed. It's pretty hard to say why do you say that, but if they're talking about time, I don't have time for this at the moment. If you're in a business which helps save time, such as a bookkeeper or an organisation which develops software to speed up sales processes or internal processes, then asking those questions about, well, what is taking your time at the moment? What do you want to spend less time on? What do you want to spend more time on? And then that turns their I don't have time into a conversation about how you can create more time. So taking away that pain, giving them a gain of more time on the things they want to spend their time on.
Yeah, because I think we've all been in the situation where someone throws back an objection or something, and it kind of throws you a little bit and you're not sure what to say. So at least preparing for the ones that might come up the most often gives you a bit of confidence that if they're going to say that, then when you can come back with this. So there's no questions come through. There's just a statement from James that said, "Thank you for the presentation, Phil." Oh, there is a question. And Claire as well. I found this both interesting and entertaining. Thank you very much.
Entertaining. Oh, great. Okay.
No, it was really good, and it's good to break it down and just make everyone think about what they're doing in their own business. Later this week, we've got another webinar which is all about staying motivated. So if you've got some good tips from this presentation, but you're struggling to get yourself and push yourself to be able to maybe pick up the phone and speak to people, that session on Thursday will help you. And then next week, we've got a leads generation session. So if you're looking at where to find the people that you need to be speaking to, or how to generate leads for the type of customer that you need, then that session next week will be really good for you as well. So lots of other comments coming through from people in the chat thanking you for a good start to the week and a great presentation. So I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Phil, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Thank you very much. Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah.